Hey guys, tonight we're diving headfirst. Wait, maybe not headfirst, let's say gently tiptoeing into the curious world of medieval times. Imagine for a moment that you find yourself waking up in a medieval village with all the charm and, well, the not so glamorous parts too. You're probably thinking, surely I won't survive this era. And honestly, you'd be right. It's a little like realizing too late that your favorite series had a surprise finale and you missed the viewing party. Before you get too comfy, feel free to tap like or subscribe, but only if you're genuinely enjoying the calm around here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is over there. I love seeing how far this sleepy little journey reaches. Now, go ahead and lower the lights, maybe let a fan hum in the background, and let's drift gently into tonight's story together. So, let's begin. You open your eyes to the sound of roosters, which is a bit less gentle than your usual morning playlist. No snooze button, alas. You sit up and find yourself in what could only be described as a minimalist rustic environment, if rustic means a lot of wood and straw. The air is filled with the scent of something earthy and maybe a little too authentic. Think of it like that trendy candle, minus the vanilla undertones. You look around, half expecting to find your phone at 2% battery, but instead, there's a window with wooden shutters letting in just enough light to remind you there are no blackout curtains here. Luckily, daylight doesn't have push notifications. You take a moment to adjust your mindset. After all, today you'll experience life without the modern wonders of running hot water or, hygiene products that aren't vinegar. Stepping outside, you're greeted by a bustling village, medieval folks going about their daily lives, wearing tunics and cloaks that honestly look like they could use a good airing out. But then again, who are we to judge? Your comfy sneakers are sorely missed already. You wander down a narrow dirt path, and here's a thought. Have you ever tried literally keeping your social distance from livestock? Spoiler, it's a losing battle. Amidst all this medieval bustling, there's a market square filled with life and a cacophony of voices. And wait, is that a juggler over there trying to defy gravity with a bunch of apples? He looks about as talented as that one guy in your group chat who insists on sending questionable gifts. Honestly, the village is lively and filled with chatter. Everyone's excited about the latest news, which might just involve a cart losing its wheel down the road. There's a collective buzz that you'd only otherwise find in the comment section of a viral video. Historians still argue whether daily life back then was as bustling as it seems in paintings, or if we're romanticizing it a bit much. Kind of like how we idolize early morning workouts until that 6 a.m. alarm actually hits. You try to engage in some medieval small talk, and you realize pretty quickly that the topics of choice don't include weekend Netflix binges. Instead, folks eagerly discuss the weather, local crop yields, and the king's latest tax decision, which, surprise, is less popular than your dad's dancing at a wedding. And then there's this quirky tidbit. Apparently, people here are obsessed with belts. Not the accessorizing kind you'd throw on with a summer dress, but belts that signal status. The more elaborate, the better. It's like the medieval equivalent of flaunting your follower count. You can't help but notice the houses around you, small yet surprisingly sturdy, often topped with thatched roofs that seem cozy until you realize they house all sorts of critters. Better than a haunted Wi-Fi signal, right? And just maybe, that's where the original housewarming parties started. As in, keeping the house warm by literally gathering everyone in the Great Hall around a singular fire that does double duty by keeping both the stew and the conversation simmering. You smile at a passing farmer carrying a bushel of something green and leafy, and it strikes you. Despite the lack of modern conveniences, there's a rhythm and simplicity here that's strangely appealing. Living day by day without that overwhelming urge to reply LOL, without actually LOLing, to politely catch up with friends over, well, crop rotations and harvest festivals. So here you are, slowly soaking in the morning sun as the medieval village carries on with its rhythm of life. You push away a fleeting thought about returning to the comforts of fluffy slippers and microwavable meals, deciding instead to bask in this gentle time warp. Honestly, it's an experience that feels both foreign and familiarly warm, like a favorite song you haven't heard in a while, but remember every word. Let's wander through this world a bit longer, shall we? It's just the beginning, after all. And who knows what more this ancient place has in store for someone like you, walking straight out of the future, fuzzy socks and all. As you wander further into this medieval world, you start getting a sense of how personal hygiene isn't quite the daily ritual it is for us now. Imagine waking up, and the first thing you reach for isn't your smartphone, but perhaps a wooden bucket of water that's been sitting out overnight, lukewarm at best. It's like the equivalent of updating your apps, except very medieval. You might be wondering if everyone smells like they've just run a marathon without deodorant, and honestly, you probably wouldn't be far off. Taking a full bath might have been more of a seasonal event than a daily necessity, which means that fresh was more about perspective. The medieval folks were pros at nonchalantly ignoring their odorous aura, sort of like when you ignore unread notifications hoping they resolve themselves. Here's a fluffy little nugget of a fact. They sometimes wore little sachets filled with herbs and flowers to keep things relatively pleasant, or at least less nose-wrinkling. It's the equivalent of popping a mint after your third cup of coffee. Hoping it convinces outside observers, you spent the afternoon sipping peppermint tea instead. And there's a quirky side story. Some historians debate whether knights really did spend months without taking a full bath. It's like imagining these gallant, shiny armored heroes and then picturing them in need of a serious dusting off. Historians still argue whether the tales of their questionable odor have been exaggerated for effect, or if they really could clear a room faster than a Facebook post during a political debate. To work around this medieval hygiene hurdle, folks would wash their faces and hands more often than dousing themselves fully. Which reminds me of when you're running late to a Zoom meeting and opt for a quick hair smoothing rather than a full-style session. The concept of skincare was more about avoiding leprosy and dysentery, and less about finding the perfect serum to combat city-induced stress. You find your curiosity drawn towards the village's main well, which is essentially the town's hydration hub. Villagers gather there, chatting like those neighborhood dogs at the park who've sniffed each other a few times. Water here serves multiple purposes. It's not just for drinking, but also for cooking, cleaning, and occasionally bathing when someone felt adventurous enough to brave the chilly splash. It's none too inviting once you realize how scarce and precious clean water is. Imagine making your evening tea by drawing water one bucket at a time and hoping it doesn't taste too much like the iron pail it came from. It's a game of chance each time you dip the bucket down, kind of like sending emojis to decipher your friend's mood during a text conversation. But here's the big debate. Was medieval water really as dangerous to drink as we like to dramatize in documentaries? Or are modern storytellers getting carried away with their dramatic recreations? Some historians lean towards GI distress being a constant companion, while others suggest that maybe, just maybe, they had a system that worked reasonably well once you acquired the right tolerances. Back then, they didn't have the modern luxury of scrolling through social media while waiting for water to boil. Nor could they block out odd tastes with a dash of flavored syrup. No, it was more about conquering the thirst frontier one guarded sip at a time. So there you are, watching villagers navigate this ancient puzzle of water and hygiene, each making their peace with the reality of cleanliness that feels miles away from your nighttime facial routine. It's an intriguing reminder of how humans adapt, navigating each era with its own challenges and little victories. Kind of like finally finding the perfect angle to hit the Wi-Fi sweet spot in the farthest corner of your apartment. As shadows grow longer, you ponder the simple yet oddly satisfying routine you've observed. It's a different kind of peace, a slower pace filled with soap alternatives, and the gentle acceptance of life's little inconveniences. So let yourself drift on that thought as we continue our medieval wander tomorrow. For now, maybe it's time to appreciate those evening comforts waiting for you at home, even if it's just lukewarm tea in your favorite chipped mug. As the day rolls on, and you wander deeper into this medieval tapestry, you start noticing the village's unique sense of fashion. Forget perfectly curated Instagram outfits or the latest TikTok trends. Here, it's more of a practical affair. It's that moment when comfort unexpectedly collides with necessity, yet there's a subtle charm to it, like mismatched socks that somehow feel just right. You find yourself studying the attire of the villagers, which at first glance seems like everyone picked clothing based on the available fabric, and not because they were consciously aiming to break any style barriers. Earth tones dominate the scene, and wool is the fabric of choice. Itchy, scratchy, and hot wool. You think about how your own cozy wardrobe might not fare well in this environment, where layering means adding more wool rather than strategically draping a chic scarf. Bathing in the sensory experience, the sound of fabric rustling accompanies your thoughts. It's the kind of background noise that feels like the medieval version of a white noise app, a familiar hum against the village's bustling soundscape. You glance down at your own attire, still out of place, yet paradoxically melding into the natural warmth of this ancient setting. Now, here's an interesting fact for your medieval fashion file. Brightly colored clothes indicate someone's social status and wealth because those dyes are neither cheap nor easy to come by. Picture this: rock stars of the 14th century flaunting crimsons and deep blues as a sort of sartorial flex. The downside? Their threads probably smell like fermented plant matter from the dye process. Definitely not a scent you'd bottle up for a fragrance line. This thought spins light chuckles through your mind like a merry-go-round. Imagine trying to explain the concept of a fashion influencer to the local tailor. You mean this person tells people what to wear without ever meeting them? Cue confused head-scratching mixed with cautious interest in such wizardry. And for a side plot twist, there's a peculiar debate among historians. Was the extravagant pointiness of shoes back then a status symbol, or simply a bold quest to introduce discomfort into daily life? Seriously, those curled-up tips could almost double as a rudimentary weapon, making it entirely plausible that footwear was designed with ulterior motives. historians still argue whether it was about outlandish style statements or practical jokes gone wild. In any case, stick with those fuzzy slippers. Consider it a safe bet. Now, let's not forget the quirkier inhabitants of the village theater: hats and head coverings. They vary wildly, from simple linen coifs to broad-brimmed hats that could be used to shade a small garden patch. Whether you're a knight or a peasant, hats carry their own brand of mystery and allure, a flash of identity in a constantly muddied world. You laugh, thinking it might be akin to our obsession with snapbacks and beanies, but with more medieval flair. Between all the shawls, tunics, and surprisingly impractical headdresses, you realize that the town's fashion sense provides more than mere protection from the elements. It's a narrative, a physical manifestation of history layered in cloth, presenting a storybook with each stitch and patch, much like your favorite blanket, holding memories of countless Netflix marathons and late-night storytelling. As afternoon light fades, the village finds itself enveloped in that golden hour glow, painting everyday scenes with a magic that transcends time. Even the rustic garb, shimmering with worn warmth, becomes a canvas of enchanting whispers, beckoning the soft call of ages. As you soak in these ancient hues, time seems to slow down, each tick of the clock coated with tranquility and nostalgic reverence. The sun slowly dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across fields and sleepy rooftops. Feel free to step back into the moment. Let your senses linger as the world quiets down, a chapter drawn to a gentle close. In this brief, magical instance, amidst ancient whispers and fading footfalls, you find that medieval life, with all its quirks and daydreams, slips seamlessly into the realm of quiet reflection, like soft waves on a peaceful shore. With evening settling, like a soft quilt over the village, you find yourself curiously drawn towards the scents wafting from an open doorway. It's mealtime, medieval style. You know, the kind where a simple loaf of bread can elicit the same joy as the arrival of a pizza delivery. Not that any delivery would have navigated the muddy, cart-rutted roads of yore without becoming an ancient breadcrumb trail. Inside, the room glows warmly, lit by a hearth that's as much about cooking as it is about gathering heat for cozy company. You drift into the comforting aroma of baked bread, and your modern palate expects the umpteenth variety of grains or seeds to be involved. But here, the bread is simple, hearty, and quite possibly heavy enough to serve as a doorstop in a pinch. Breaking it open, you notice a dense texture, a little uneven, but satisfying nonetheless. It's a far cry from that artisanal sourdough you might find on a quaint cafe table, yet it's rich in history and serves as a wholesome sustenance to these unhurried settlers. War rations with a side of nostalgia, if you will. In addition to bread, there's a pot simmering on the hearth. It emits a savory yet mystifying aroma that suggests ingredients so humble they could almost pass for your recent grocery haul. It's a form of hearty stew, featuring mystery meat that could be anything from chicken to, well, best not to guess too much when the options are as varied as a food truck menu. It's a reminder that medieval meals were more about survival than delicacy. As you dine on this medieval cuisine, savored in good company, conversations weave through the air like the smoke curling up from the fire. The talk turns to the wonders and perils of trade, spices adding a touch of exotic flair to their otherwise simple diet. Okay, so they weren't trading cat memes yet, but silk and spice were the movers and shakers of their global exchanges. Here's a whimsical tidbit for you. Some folks believed in sprinkling a little dried lavender or rosemary over meals to ward off evil spirits. It's like trying to keep the bad vibes at bay by utterly drowning them in fragrance. Much how you may burn summer-scented candles when it's actually winter, hoping they'll trick your senses into feeling a tropical escape. Historians still debate whether these herbal additions had practical purposes, or if the olfactory game was just as colorful then as it is now during a political coffee debate. As you chew thoughtfully, you muse on the societal structuring witnessed here. An equestrian symphony orchestrated by the whims of nature, where food isn't just nourishment, but an enfolded sacred act upon which livelihoods depend. But look closer, and you'll find that even amid the struggle for daily sustenance, there's a uniqueness to these communal dinners. Eating is a shared affair, an occasion when community bonds over more than just food. It's a nightly gathering for laughter, tales, and slow unraveling of the day. A chorus rendered in flickering shadows and gentle tones. Unlike your hasty to-go meals, this feast savors the flavor of lingering discourse, sustained like a well-tended flame. The evening meal wanes, much like daylight softening into sunset, leaving behind the sweet afterglow of full bellies and shared stories. The hearth embers crackle softly, a comforting lullaby singing upon newly arrived night. As you're caught within this tender embrace, surrounded by twilight and quiet revelries, take solace in the steady cadence of ancient tradition, evening melting seamlessly into wistful dreams. With gratitude stitched into cozy thoughts, you step away from this medieval meal, curiosity lingering in every breath as you tread softly through the shadowed corridors of time. Feel free to let its essence envelop you, a slumberous serenade calling you home as glistening firelight paves your path under starlit skies. Let's pause on this journey now. Savor its richness until tomorrow cradles us with fresh marble whispers, its unfolding stories ready to greet us once again. As the cozy warmth of the evening meal settles like a hug around your insides, you take a leisurely stroll through the village, curious about the tales whispered by shadows cast by the flickering torches. One such tale speaks of knights, those shining figures of folklore and movies that have us imagining glamour and valor. Yet here's a scoop that might surprise you. Being a knight wasn't all glory and gallivanting. It's like expecting every office meeting to be a masterclass and then realizing it's just more about trying to figure out how to unmute yourself on Zoom. In the dim glow of twilight, your mind wanders to the heaviness of a knight's armor, the medieval equivalent of carrying around all your life's unread emails in a backpack. Sure, it looks impressive on the cinematic stage, but lugging around 60 pounds of metal every day is no small feat, and surely warranted a meme-worthy complaint session or two. Historians still argue whether the sheer weight and impracticality of armor made knights more ceremonial figures than actual battlefield heroes. I mean, realistically, chasing someone through muddy fields in metal trousers sounds more like a medieval episode of Who Thought This Was a Good Idea than an epic war saga. Though who's to say, maybe each clunky step was interpreted as an unrivaled power move. And let's pause to chuckle about jousting, the ancient spectator sport that bears a resemblance to trying not to spill your drink at a bustling concert. Imagine training for years just to perfect the art of not getting poked by a glorified stick while riding a galloping horse. Impressive? Absolutely. Stressful? Oh, for sure. A valiant quest to win hearts en masse. Perhaps but many were more likely to win bruises instead. Despite the escapades, becoming a knight wasn't available with a free trial or subscription upgrade. First, you'd start as a page, running errands before puberty was even in sight. Consider it medieval summer camp, with less bug spray and more shield polishing. Then you'd level up to squire, with duties often including armor maintenance and horse grooming, roughly the equivalent of finally being trusted to hold a friend's fancy phone. Only after proving yourself worthy, in a tale reminiscent of RPGs everywhere, would you embrace knighthood, a badge tinged with equal parts respect and weighty expectation. Of course, there had to be perks, like feasting in the great halls of grand castles or staying associated with nobles whose lives seemed interwoven with both drama and intrigue. An ongoing episode of The Real Lords of Medieval England. In return, knights pledged loyalties, often facing moral dilemmas about whom and what to champion, crossing swords with matters of conscience now lost to the dreamscape of history. As you pace softly over cobblestones, the shadowy silhouettes of knights blend into the quiet nighttime orchestra, their lives echoing through creaking doors and fluttering banners. With a final glimpse, you turn back to the here and now, leaving behind the clanging swords and whispered vows, only tucked away behind resting eyelids, like stories saved to memory. As night deepens, the comforting mirth of jubilant tales guides you on. Let its glow descend with a tempered breath, easing the burdens of all centuries shared. Let yourself sway gently in the rhythmic hum of bygone eras, enveloped in a solitude that cradles you in its embrace. Here, time smoothens to a mellifluous lull, each ancient thread woven tenderly around our dreaming hearts, a cherished treasury imbued with peace. When you awake, let the night spirit live on, guiding you past unwritten tomorrows. For now, turn toward the gentle pulse of softening dreams, wrapped in the companionship of hopeful calm and promise set aglow amidst soft whispers of medieval nights. Let's drift together in tranquil solace. Tomorrow, promising another gentle dreamscape to explore under the softened light of stars, a glimmer once more. As the night deepens, you find yourself drawn back into the warm embrace of the medieval setting, each step whispering tales of enchantment and mystery. The stars overhead twinkle with a familiar luster, reminding you that no matter the century, the night sky remains a constant, like a serene companion sharing secrets just out of reach. You wander towards a modest house where soft candlelight flickers against the wooden walls. Inside, you encounter the intriguing world of medieval medicine, where hope intermixed with remedy and science was, well, let's say it was still finding its path, much like scrolling through endless search results, trying to diagnose that peculiar ache or pain. In this realm, medical practitioners range from learned scholars to local wise women who concoct potions with the faith of a YouTube beauty guru touting homemade face masks. Leech jars stand in shadowed corners, silently awaiting their next unsuspecting patrons, known for their supposed ability to rebalance humors, and probably leaving many a medieval patient pondering, is this really necessary? Imagine visiting the doctor, and the recommended treatment is basically inviting parasites for a casual lunchtime blood draw. Now, here's the quirky kicker. Garlic and herbs are also part of the medical arsenal, their pungent scents doubling as both cure and culinary mainstay. Take garlic, for instance, a staple believed to ward off everything from evil spirits to particularly enthusiastic salesmen of the plague days. You chuckle softly, comparing this pungent bulb to today's equivalent of a call-blocking app. Historians still argue whether more folks were helped or hindered by these medieval remedies. Some say those herbal concoctions had merit, echoing today's holistic health trends, while skeptics highlight snake oil salesmanship disguised in woolen cloaks. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, amongst dried flowers and whispered spells. Modern medicine, with its scans and sterile tools, feels worlds apart, yet eerily connected by the thread of human curiosity. Our perennial quest to heal and help, returning time and again to the drawing board with hopes alight, whether in stone-walled abbey or high-tech lab. And let me tell you, if medieval folks ever discovered Google, it'd probably be overtaken by the wonders of herbal lore and debates of vinegar's efficacy. As you stand amidst lotions and potions of a forgotten era, the candlelight dips and sways, casting stories of dreams, lost and found, across a shadowed past. It's like being swept into a tale whose beginning and end you can only muse upon, tracing arcs upon forgotten destinies. With the hour growing late, a soft calm descends, allowing thoughts to drift dreamily upon the currents of the night. Let shadows fold unabated over unfurling memory, guiding you deeper into the cradle of ancient whispers. Here, the echoes of the past resonate, guided by ancestral hands as threads of history's tapestry weave whispers into slumbering hearts. Whether tonight has been a voyage tinged with wonder or mystery, let it bring peace to those hidden recesses of thought, warmed by the knowledge that you've wandered through ages shared beneath countless stars. As gentle breaths lull you toward dusk's timeless serenade, remember that each memory is but a doorway, closing softly upon unspoken dreams, yet to slip through the watchful gaze of the moon. For now, rest easily, cocooned within the friendly night, with the whispered promise of new dawns unfolding beyond the horizon, where history's gentle tales never cease to glisten, eternally painted across tomorrow's skies. Let the quiet song of night enfold you tenderly, lids drawn softly over a world swathed in slumber, until dawn's gentle hand bids you awaken. The morning stirs as you emerge from the comforting cocoon of sleep, calling you into another day in the land of medieval wonders. Your journey takes you beyond the usual horizon, straight into the heart of peasant life, a reality that's far from the fairy tales filled with enchanted forests and knights in shining armor. Imagine instead a life of tilling the land and tending to flocks, where even feeding the chickens is a monumental task akin to juggling inbox zero while slaying an Excel spreadsheet dragon. You wander into fields where the earth feels vibrantly alive beneath the farmer's careful touch, and every sprout and stalk tells a story of dedication. It's a life that revolves around the sun's rhythm and moon's dance, a time perhaps simpler, but tinged with weariness. The earth's gentle pulse wrapped around calloused hands and sweat-streaked brows. Picture this era's equivalent of hitting send on an important email, the triumphant feeling of successfully planting seeds or herding goats not into the neighbor's turnip patch. Through conversations with friendly faces lined by labor and sun, you learn how families unite to brave seasons and storms, balancing labor and celebrations in a fragile harmony. Villagers gather, sharing tales by firelight, joined in a camaraderie, arcane as digital threads woven through virtual epics, aligned by a common goal sprouting from shared roots. Now, here's where the medieval narrative takes a delightful twist. While you're busy imagining the humble lives of these villagers, think of the festivals that punctuate the grind. Oh yes, life here isn't all grit and toil. Dotted throughout the calendar, these lively gatherings embody a change of pace, blending into vibrant revelry. You know, kind of like when a Friday night meetup turns into an impromptu kitchen dance party, with half-empty cups scattered like an impromptu art installation. Historians often debate how much social mobility the peasants really had. Some champion the romantic notion that festivity moments allowed glimpses of freedom, while others argue the walls of the caste system loomed over even the most lively dance floors, like a digital paywall, before you've even settled into the first paragraph of that enticing article. A merry little footnote for you. Their games often involved physical skills, like tossing heavy stones or climbing greasy poles, which, let's face it, you'd promptly make viral if they had platform access back then. And in the moments where laughter bubbles over and music fills the void between toil and solace, you might just see the blueprints of happiness sketched onto grinning faces, unassuming reels full of joy, sometimes hidden in the corner of daily chaos. As you meander back to the village after a day spent in the fields, the richly woven tapestry of medieval life unfurls before you. A world of intertwining threads and shared stories. Evening descends, slipping softly over rooftops and hearths as sunset hues deepen to twilight blue. The village quiets, a gentle reminder of ordinary life's steady rhythm, shifting between effort and embrace. Under a watchful, glowing moon, the serenity leaves you wrapped in nostalgic sables and velvet uncertainties, dreamscapes painted by unrestrained imagination. Here, smoothed by the night's gentle sigh, brought home by the promise of tomorrow's sunrise, slip into timeless ease. Let warmth and wanderings enfold you, a soothing balm for the unspooled threads of the day. Drift in these closing moments, feeling the waking dream of history's fleeting embrace. For the stories shared under twilight's breath revive those slumbering dreams that call us back, ever toward the tender haven of night's tender clasp. As the midnight chill settles like a soft whisper over the medieval village, you find yourself drawn towards the grandeur of the castle that looms against the night's velvet cloak. It's the quintessential medieval landmark, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. But let's be real, it might not live up to the romantic notions fueled by countless movies or that fairy tale wallpaper on your phone. Making your way through the stone corridors, you notice just how cold and drafty these vast halls can be. Picture walking through your fridge at night, searching not for a snack, but for an elusive sense of warmth as breezes weave their way through gaps in thick stone walls. The hearths blaze bravely, battling against the persistent chill that feels like it has some personal vendetta against warmth. The truth is, living in a castle was far from the easy nobility we like to imagine. Historians still argue whether the constant cold and damp were products of poor insulation or design features with defensive purposes in mind. It's a debate as enigmatic as the question of why everyone's password is still 11234556. Once you get past the initial love affair with the extravagant architecture, you realize how the very design centers around defense and utility over comfort. Those iconic towers? Great for spotting invaders from afar, or perhaps fending off the unwanted knock-knock of a persistent door-to-door bard, but not so helpful for maintaining a cozy atmosphere. It's more like logging into an account that insists on two-factor authentication when you're entering your own house. Inside, the rooms overflow with cold elegance, furnished with tapestries and thick stone fireplaces that hint at attempts to make this stone fortress feel just a smidge homier. The flicker of candlelight creates shadows that dance along walls, filling the spaces with stories untold, where echoes of footsteps tell tales of people who have walked these halls, wrapped up in the mystique of castle life. Here's a quirky historical tidbit. Castles often had garderobes, which we might chuckle at calling royal latrines. The term traces back to the habit of storing clothing within, to let the ammonia from waste act as a primitive moth deterrent. Not exactly the design choice you'd find on those sleek interior design reels, is it? Wandering through dining halls that once hosted feasts of epic proportions, envision long tables groaning under the weight of lavish foods, at least the kind that didn't decide to scamper away rapidly on four legs. Yet, think about it. The struggle of cozying up and truly enjoying such meals, confronted by drafts as stubbornly unyielding as a long-held grudge against public Wi-Fi. It's like attending a banquet, but debating whether you should keep your coat on for insulation. As the castle's walls echo with tales of its own, the moon casts tranquil beams over its turrets, a gentle reminder that beyond stone and battlements, a history loaned to time's care fades into the serenity of night's embrace. Listen closely. That's the quiet recognition of a paradox, where grandeur stands side by side with the mundane, a tapestry woven in the silence of castle walls. Stepping away, your thoughts linger on the complex legacy of such imposing structures, wondering how they've shaped the fabric of myths and storytellings infused with chills of their own. Enchanted whispers capping stone pinnacles and dappled starlight upon which dreams now beckon the world to gently awaken. Allow yourself to rest in the hush that now envelops you, cradling dreams still fresh from the echoes of history's gentle breath. So as dusk succumbs to the blush of dawn's tender embrace, let this enchanted twilight guide you home, toward quiet revelations that slip blissfully into the rhythm of another day's promise, where tales spun still rustle softly upon night's ageless breeze. With dawn's gentle rays beginning to peek over the horizon, you find yourself diving back into the vibrant tapestry of medieval life, this time taking a humorous detour into the curious world of medieval laws. Take a seat, because the quirks of justice in this era are about to size up to quite the bedtime story, where unbiased verdicts and modern rationality are more rare than spotting a unicorn on the village green. Imagine a society where laws can seem rather whimsical. There's a particular charm to envisioning a world where offenses sometimes met equally quirky consequences, almost like a live-action role-play you stumble into before your first coffee. One of the more bizarre laws you might encounter involved the regulation of ale quality. Ale conners were officials appointed to ensure freshly brewed ale met certain standards. Literal drinkers on the payroll before happy hour sniffers were a thing. A magical job akin to previewing your streaming choices before dedicating your weekend to a new series, if you ask me. Now, historians still argue whether these early quality checks were more about maintaining order or appeasing the peasants who deserved a well-spun pint after labor-intensive days. After all, given the choice between shady brew and lawful whistleblowing, it's easy to see why this practice was essential, briefly placing standards above laissez-faire intoxication. Let's chuckle a bit about some of the disciplinary standards from ye old times. Forget stiff fines or community service. Punishments could involve things like dunking stools for scolding women. Yes, you heard it right. If you were a woman with a penchant for gossip, or perhaps just caught voicing an opinion a bit too loudly, you might find yourself unceremoniously dunked into the nearest river in a process meant to cool off your fiery talk. A medieval timeout that could have easily crossed over into an odd reality TV challenge, if one dares imagine it. Here's a fun historical footnote. An actual law from the Middle Ages mandated archery practice on Sundays. Aimed at boosting military readiness, bow and arrow Sundays became intertwined with both leisure and duty. A weekend workout routine that could lead to surprise strings of arrows gracing lawns if modern suburbia ever adopted such customs. The medieval version of hustling for likes, perhaps, only with fewer duck-faced selfies and more bullseye aspirations. And here's where modern justice raises eyebrows at its eccentric ancestors. Trial by ordeal was seen as divine judgment. Imagine choosing between walking on hot iron bars or being submerged in icy waters to prove your innocence. An outcome that exemplified, are you sure you want to continue? Like every software update we've collectively regretted clicking yes to in the past. The crabbed scratchings of heralds documenting these peculiar laws capture a realm in which order balanced precariously on the edge of folly, where morality wore whimsical hats, chuckling under its breath at structured codes. It's a place where divine intervention and community observation converged into a peculiar harmony, roughly akin to the interactions within a rowdy yet loving shared chat group. As shadows lengthen to yield another starry twilight, peer through history's kaleidoscope, imagining lives intimately woven into these idiosyncratic laws, advancing with each perplexing chapter, a shared tapestry of perfect discord and simple reason. Embrace the past's capricious echoes, soothing in their pealing whispers of a vividly absurd era, clothed in law's fractured robes. Let the chuckles echo softly as you listen to the cadence of ancient justice sliding seamlessly into the hushed lilt of approaching night. As the page turns and history settles, beckoning quiet dreams to return under the moon's gentle watch, each medieval nuance finds its way into the recesses of slumbering hearts. For now, walk quietly with these tales stitched across fabric unending, pointing delicately toward the horizon's horizon, waiting expectantly as night's tale tumbles ever gently over the edge, welcoming dawn's fresh embrace with time-worn grace. Under a sky adorned with a tapestry of stars, you wander into the intricate web of feudal loyalty, a concept so deeply ingrained in medieval society, yet so incomprehensible to us modern wanderers juggling numerous online subscriptions. This was a world built upon layers of allegiances, where bonds were as complex and tangled as your earbuds after a long day at work. Picture this: a medieval world where kings and lords are at the top of the social ladder, their power hinging delicately upon their vassals' sworn fealty, an ancient contract promising service and protection. It's reminiscent of a precarious, emoji-laden group chat, where one misunderstood message could topple alliances faster than spoiling a surprise party. Now, you might be wondering what exactly was expected under this system. Being a vassal often meant providing military service, offering counsel, and occasionally sharing in feasts that would put your best friend's dinner parties to shame. However, the glamour of serving under a banner was occasionally cut short by the very real risk of being called up for battle at the drop of an elegantly feathered hat. Funny thing, historians still argue whether these feudal bonds were more about genuine loyalty or convenience. The lines blur over whether these allegiances were honored with deep-felt duty, or if they were shaky alliances, sidestepping to the complicated tune of "keep your friends close and your enemies closer." like awkwardly engaging at obligatory family reunions. A quirky note for the curious. There were often elaborate ceremonies to seal these loyal relationships. Picture solemn oaths exchanged, much like tagging your bestie in every relatable meme to solidify their social companion status. Symbols of trust were handed over, sometimes literally as clods of dirt, in signifying the passing of land ownership rights. Certainly not your typical exchange of keys, Wi-Fi passwords, or Netflix logins, but endearing in its own right. Imagine yourself witnessing a grand display of allegiance as a lord swears fealty to the king. It's a scene filled with ceremonial grandeur and pomp. A joust of spoken vows intertwined with ceremonial pageantry. The assembled spectators would murmur with anticipation, casting knowing glances as these words painted intricate tapestries of feudal obligation. As you journey deeper into this world of oaths and obligations, you realize how intertwined these lives truly were. A delicate ecosystem clinging to balance amidst shifting loyalties and political machinations. It's as if you've stumbled into a meticulously curated medieval social network where every connection lays the groundwork for peace and occasionally gossip-worthy betrayal. The gentle night carries you onward, ushering you away from the elaborate pathways of feudal loyalty and onto new stories yet untold. Feel yourself relax into the swaying rhythm of history's breath as it rocks you into the tender embrace of midnight dreams. Let the hushed resonances of nightly journeys lull you into tranquil reflection, for each whisper carries you homeward, across the boundaries of time where stories converge in quiet symphony. Nestle into these embroidered moments, cherishing the shared cadence as you drift towards gleaming dawns yet unaware of their enticing allure. Acknowledge the tender touch of wandering history as it pampers the fabric of our wandering minds with dreams boundless and aglow. Now, breathe deeply of the night's sweet perfume and allow the gentle caress of its timeless embrace to guide your dreaming heart across shadowed landscapes brimming with whispers old and new. Embrace the slumber as it beckons you forth to deeper tales, a promise enfolded within night's serene expanse, awakening anew within the dawn's golden cradle. As morning light creeps over the horizon like a slow yawn, you find yourself drawn to the bustling heart of medieval entertainment. Time to step into a world alive with pastimes that were less about binge watching and more about an elaborate dance between danger and delight. These medieval folks were all about making their own fun, direct descendants of that childhood urge to turn cardboard boxes into castles. Imagine a town square alive with colorful vendors, musicians tuning lutes with care, and jugglers vying for attention with precarious cavalcades of apples and flaming torches. It's a kaleidoscope of merriment and mirth, like scrolling through your feed and actually pausing to watch each TikTok instead of aimlessly swiping past in search of virtual fulfillment. Now picture the grand tournaments, events that were somewhere between your favorite sports final and a concert extravaganza, filled with the anticipation of a crowd as knights prepared to clash in shining armor. The air buzzes with excitement as the distinctive twang of a crossbow and the ring of steel create a symphony unlike any other. A harmonious chaos reminiscent of an auctioneer, and auction goers playing speed charades. Historians still debate whether these tournaments were more about honing warrior skills or simple showmanship. Imagine, for a moment, the parallels to modern-day viral stunts, where the line between genuine prowess and showiness becomes delightfully blurred. driving audiences to the edge of their hay bales with adrenaline-fueled anticipation. Then, there are the more subtle charms of the medieval mindset, riddles and puzzles to tickle your cognitive fancy. Picture lively gatherings where thinking caps were adorned as snugly as any crown, a challenge to test wits that make Sudoku marathons feel like quick doodles on a napkin. These word games were often riddled with double meanings, leaving townsfolk scratching heads while sipping an evening mead boil. But none of these amusements would be complete without the feasts. A sensory overload of tastes and textures, where the tables groaned under loads of roast meats, sweet pies, and endless flagons. It's like the medieval version of a potluck, where, instead of showing up with a bag of chips last minute, you'd probably be carving roasted pheasants as a centerpiece. And oh, the medieval court jesters, actors and comedians of yore, tasked with lightening the ruler's mood and fooling their own audience into fits of laughter. They balanced wit and silliness like the line between sincere laughter and the all-too-familiar texted LOL, devoid of any real mirth. Finally, here's a whimsical tidbit. Pet ownership was a form of entertainment in itself, albeit much simpler than what modern pet influencers on Instagram display. From falcons on gloved wrists to amusing monkey companions, it was like having Snapchat filters come to life, complete with all the mischief and none of the virtual mess. As the day's activities wind down, leaving laughter echoing in the stone-shaped amphitheaters of memory, you wander into the slipstream of glazed shadows. Here, stories of simpler times waltz quietly beside you. Reminders that despite the passage of time, the joy of shared entertainment beats in harmony at the heart of human experience. Less leave them lingering with you. Gentle reminders of communal joy. Rhythms that defy eras and resonate within, sweeping across time's eternal expanse as stars twinkle softly above. Allow yourself to be enveloped by the sweet serenade of dusk, drifting tenderly homeward, bathed in twilight's timeless embrace. Let the melody of ancient laughter cradle you as the night deepens, weaving into dreams that are sweetly sown with stories of enchantment past. Rest easily, my friend, as we journey onward to the new waking morn, where adventures untold await eager anticipation beneath the playful dance of dawn's unfurling bloom. As the tranquil grip of night holds the medieval world in its embrace, the village grows still, save for the distant howl of the wind and the soft rustle of night creatures in their hidden nooks. Yet, despite this hushed veneer, there's an unyielding story weaving through the darkness, that of the uninvited guest who once swept through the land with a stealth that no castle walls could barricade against. Yes, we're talking about the Black Death, the ultimate medieval party crasher, here to stay longer than any guest overstaying their welcome at your holiday dinner. Now, imagine a time when sickness spread like wildfire, a shrouded terror draped over the landscape more oppressive than any looming debt or unanswered emails. In villages and cities alike, plague carts roamed the streets, bearing grim cargoes beneath bell-tolling skies. And here's where you'd probably consider ghosting your own reflection, let alone a masked physician wielding poultices and prayers, who more closely resembled a figure from a Halloween parade than the harbinger of healing the afflicted desperately hoped for. Historians still argue about how exactly the bacillus propagated through so many regions with such fatal efficiency. Was it rats on ships with compromising hygiene? Or was the pestilence carried through the whispering winds and tradespeople on well-trodden paths? Or perhaps an ever-mysterious curse, as the suffering might have suspected? not unlike the way your Wi-Fi conks out at the most inopportune video call moment. There's an air of enigma that even enlightenment struggles to dispel. Now, here's a historical nugget that might spark a lighthearted chuckle. Folklore theorized that the infamous nursery rhyme, "Ring a Roses," was steeped in the plague's legacy. Though some historians have debunked this origin story, it's amusing to imagine how childhood nostalgia perhaps wrapped itself in the remnants of a history steeped in somber reality. A medieval meme gone viral in a much different sense. Amidst the turmoil, you'd find plenty of curious medieval practices aimed at shrugging off the pestilence, from burning aromatic herbs to wild dances of macabre in gathering places. The ultimate throwback to shared TikToks of improbable remedies destined to cure what ails ya. It's the surreal juxtaposition of shadowy despair contrasted against humanity's unyielding will to dance in the face of disaster. Yet amid this swirling chaos, there lay stories of bravery, tales of healers unwavering in their resolve, treating the afflicted while hoping to outscore tenacious spirits in an unending race. Merchants devised cunning strategies to safely seal deals, as though asserting that trade had its survival instincts eerily akin to conversing through masked nudges and winks over churned-up travel plans. Even in this dark era, the resilience of communities, unparalleled in numbers yet fiercely connected through shared spirit, echoes you through time. You feel the inherited strength coursing through them, resonating with your own, like unspoken acknowledgments shared late at a friend's kitchen counter amid sleepy confessions. As you muse upon these somber landscapes, the rising dawn slips quietly over the horizon, bathing once-trodden lands with the promise of new days, each painted with assurance of brighter possibilities. The village awakes to dappled sunbeams filtering through morning mist. Life emerges, cautious but steadfast, resilient. The journey through tales of shadow and light returns softly to where light filters within, illuminating hope nestled comfortably against adversity. Let your stirring heart find solace in these entwined histories, where laughter and endurance maintain a harmonious cadence that echoes gently across the tarot of human experience. Now drift softly, seeking the horizon where dawn's palette unfurls, heralding the continuation of this tender narrative. Embrace the gentle lullabies sung by stars at rest, the dusk's enchanted tapestry woven seamlessly into the tender melodies of a yet uncharted morning. Allow yourself to wander dreamward, held gently by history's warm embrace as another tranquil night leads us ever onward. As the sun stretches its rays across the village, painting the morning with hues of gold and promise, it's time to immerse yourself in one of the most joyous and chaotic spectacles of medieval life: the grand feasts, gatherings where food, music, and laughter swirl like a delightful concoction of merriment. A celebration that would put your Instagram stories to shame with enough content to fuel endless scrolls. Imagine a long table laden with a cornucopia of culinary delights, where the concept of all you can eat takes on a whole new meaning. You've got everything from peacocks presented in their plumage to towering pies filled with all sorts of savory surprises. That medieval kitchen worked harder than any reality TV cooking competition. And spoiler alert, the judges were merciless in their unfiltered feedback. Kind of like the comment sections you can't help but read through your fingers. Here's a fun fact to chew on while marveling at the spread. Roasted swan was a high-status dish, boasting an elaborate presentation that often outshone the taste. Imagine serving a dish that looks like it could fly off the table at any moment. In modern terms, it's that perfectly staged food shot that grabs likes before anyone has actually tasted the thing. But such feasts weren't just about food. Entertainment would unfurl in a spectacular fashion with troubadours, jesters, and performances of spiced rumor and bawdy tales. The medieval version of a Netflix lineup during the holidays, offering everything from drama to slapstick humor served up with telltale charm. And you'd have court jesters keeping laughter seasoned with jolly antics. Imagine improv comedy where your lines might just decide your future dinner invites. As the night would wear on, the hubbub would peak, with food fights occasionally erupting in good-natured mischief. Yes, historians might shake their heads at this, but folklore insists that on particularly spirited evenings, pastry and pudding might engage in airborne diplomacy. Evidence, perhaps, that our food-flinging instincts persist beyond cafeteria whims. Now, historians often debate whether these feasts truly mirrored the abundance painted in grand accounts, or if the more humble attendees made do with simpler fare. Were these tales of eye-popping opulence exaggerated like a fish story, or did they hold a kernel of truth amid the boisterous embellishment, much like your favorite influencer's lifestyle? And here's a quirk you may find amusing. The sugar-coated almonds commonly served at feasts were not just a treat, but also seen as digestives, in a bid to soothe the stomach amidst the culinary chaos. Sort of like reaching for mint tea after a pizza night, hoping it undoes a bit of that dietary misadventure. As the feast slowly teeters from spectacle to memory, and the last notes of the troubadour's song linger above wine-stained tablecloths, you feel the vibe shifting. A gentle sort of nostalgia plays at the edges of conversation, much like the way at the end of a weekend filled with friends, mixing fun with twinges of parting wistfulness. And so, the feast winds down, leaving in its wake laughter that trickles like soft rain, memories that flutter gently like the fables strung along tapestry threads. Let the echoes of bygone revelries join as you step softly away, the spirit of celebration resting within you. As the banquet concludes and envelops you, allow the promise of gentle beginnings to lead you forth. Here is where night and dawn converge, deep-seated stories treading softly over half-lit rooms, closing yet quietly musing their gentle tales. Drift upon this tender reverie, cherishing the knowledge that the enchantment of feasts and fellowship remains, unfurling beneath the loving glow of time's steadfast gaze. Now, close your eyes, dear traveler, and let these moments entwine with dreams, their tender echoes guiding you as another night settles in whispers beneath the gentle caress of slumbering stars. When you wake, let the feasting spirit be your companion, offering solace amid the promises of tomorrow's fresh and unfurling morn. As the first light of dawn sweeps over the sleeping village, the melodies of a distant bell gently draw you into the realm of spiritual life, a tapestry of faith woven tight into every breath and heartbeat of the medieval world. Here, belief wasn't just a quiet whisper, but a resonant chorus that underscored every single day, a constant refrain serenading souls caught in the ebb and flow of life's grand procession. Every town had its church, an anchor within the bustle and clangor of everyday existence. Stepping inside, you're greeted by cool stone aisles and the quiet comfort of flickering candles casting soft shadows across time-worn pews. For centuries, these pillars of devotion have withstood tempests, their walls absorbing countless prayers, warming themselves on the faith that radiates like sunlight through stained glass. The scent of incense drifts softly, curling around the sense of stillness captured within sacred walls. It's a fragrance that's like stepping into a warm, familiar shawl, woven with hope and penitence, the medieval version of ambient wellness videos designed to calm a busy mind, if you will. Here, people seek balm for the soul and respite from life's relentless trials, finding solace through whispered confessions and hymns hummed beneath breath. Faith's intricate dance folds rituals into the rhythms of the day. Weddings, mass, and funerals painting life's stages with vibrant hues, marking a syncopation as well rehearsed as any symphony. Bells call the faithful with their vibrant clangor, their tones curling like laughter over fields and forests, breaking the silence with joyful interruptions, much like a Spotify playlist sparking joy mid-commute. And yet, historians still argue over the true influence of the church during these times. Was it a pillar of guidance amidst uncertainty, or a controlling force wielding power over monarchs and villagers alike? The truth likely sways between these extremes, much like our own struggles between work-life balance, a seesaw the medieval heart knew too well. For a dash of whimsy, consider the medieval pilgrimages, journeys made on foot to sacred sites, where pilgrims sought divine favor or redemption. Give the modern traveler an overly ambitious bucket list, and the essence of these spiritual quests comes to life. Every step, a prayer. Each blister's a rite sought with the belief that divine grace awaits beyond each dawn. While religion filled people's lives with ritual and reverence, it also painted their dreams with theological canvas, a constant dialogue with the heavens, a perpetual reaching toward the divine. In a world devoid of search engines to consult at 3 a.m. existential crises, folks turned to scriptures and saints, gleaning meaning within life's tangled web. A curious tidbit for the ages. Relics, often housed within these sacred places, were considered potent talismans of faith. Be they bones or fragments, believed miraculous, they might be akin to rare artifacts we store with reverence, tokens made of faith and hope mingled with history, cherished for the transcendent power they represent within the heart. As you take one last whispered look at these ancient stones, imagine the chanting voices rising into a crescendo of devotion, filling the void with sweet music. Listen as this gentle benediction floats upward, painting this simple yet profound scene soft behind closed eyes. So, carry the echoes of this quiet awe into dawn's sweet embrace. Let the gentle murmurings of medieval devotion guide you home, a whispered promise of solace and serenity amidst the waking world. Take heart within these stories, stitched through time with threads both gossamer fine and deeply wrought. When you step forth anew, let this gentle dawn surround you with welcoming warmth, cradling the spirit's dreams and promises. Hold this tender reflection close, casting it as a comforting balm across fresh paths, taken beneath the endless canopy of a sky unfolding, luminous with the hope of dreams gently remembered. As the sun bathes the village in its golden embrace, the gentle rhythms of medieval life continue to unfold, weaving together the threads of everyday existence with the glimmer of dreams and legends. Each day pulses with a quieter cadence, and amidst this tapestry, you're drawn to the echoing whispers of the past, stories that transcend time with their allure and mystery, inviting you to explore the legends that still linger in the twilight shadows. These tales, whispered by hearth fires and passed along from generation to generation, are the medieval world's own kind of viral content. They captivate villagers with the promise of heroes and heroines, dragons and witches, and of course, those timeless quests for justice and love. It's like having live storytellers wrap you in a saga so engrossing, you almost forget about binging your favorite show. Just swap your screen for the vivid glow of embers, casting fantastical shapes across a time-worn wall. Historians still argue whether elements of these legends were grounded in truth or wafted in on gossamer wings of imagination. Were those knights in shining armor genuinely vanquishing draconian foes? Or were they conjured by starlit skies and vivid dreams? It's a debate that invites you into an ancient realm where fact and fiction frolic, holding hands like a pair of dancers in an endless waltz, a medieval podcast dipping into the fantastical. Consider the pivotal moral of King Arthur and his noble knights seated around the famous Round Table, where tales of honor, betrayal, and incredible quests paint a picture of utopia. Whether fact or fiction, scholars know that these stories offer humanity's collective yearning for fairness and fellowship. Timeless narratives echoing through time's kaleidoscope, resonating with our own yearnings like age-old lullabies. For a quirky side note, think about the lore surrounding the fabled unicorn. Medieval tapestries often depicted these mythic creatures with the air of capturing sightings, almost slipping through the fabric of reality itself. And, amusingly, unicorns were purportedly drawn to maidens, an ancient precursor perhaps to those playful zodiac love predictions whispered with hope and a hint of skepticism. The medieval folk, as they gathered under nights illuminated by embers and starry skies, indulged in ghost stories that sent shivers more chilling than a sudden app crash during a virtual hangout. These tales cast shadows along cobblestones, making imaginations dance with shadowy tendrils and delivering delightful fright under candlelit chandeliers. But beyond the spectacular, consider how stories bound communities, acted as guides, and provided assurance against uncertainty. They were the connective tissue that infused realism with vitality, wisdom with fantasy. They sculpted hope and steeled bravery, whispering the prospect that, against all odds, even the humblest villager might find themselves a hero in their own tale. Mirroring the spirit in our modern quests and relationships, however virtual they may be. As the day's light slowly yields to the poised hand of twilight, paths drawn once more in soft earthen-hued strokes begin to vanish beneath your feet. Let these tales linger warmly in your heart, planting seeds that entwine with dreams untold and echo fondly from one era to the next, lending strength to tread new adventures on unmarked paths. Here, amid silence and shadow, stories resound with tenderness, reaching forth to bridge ages with an air of familiarity, cradling you in their gentle embrace. Draw nearer to the night's serenade, enveloped in the cradle of forgotten dreams that patiently await reawakening beneath dawn's golden gaze. Now, take a lingering breath, allowing these tender myths to gently unravel into the lullabies of night, carrying you gently upon whispers timeless. Let the music of legends carry you homeward, drawing you tenderly across shimmering starlight, kindling hope within the sweet dreams that sway on night's tranquil breeze, awaiting the morn's dawning, where tales old and new await in radiant promise, forever timeless and eternally aglow.